Her name is synonymous with the UFC, Ronda Rousey. Launching the women's division in 2012, she wowed audiences with knockout wins taking seconds, not minutes. As her undefeated streak grew, so did her celebrity, even picking up movie roles in franchises like The Expendables and The Fast and the Furious. But in November of 2015, Rousey suffered her first UFC defeat. 1 year later, her last. After some time off the grid, Rousey resurfaced, wrestling in WWE, being inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame. She also became a mom. In her new memoir, Our Fight, which is out this week, nothing's off limits. And when we spoke, true to form, Rousey didn't pull any punches.
Ronda Rousey made a name for herself here in the UFC octagon.
This has to be a great escape for you here.
Yeah, it's my she shed.
But about 60 miles from Los Angeles, in the San Bernardino Mountains, is where she found her voice for her latest memoir.
Writing a book is like writing your heart down and giving it for everyone else to read. People were like, oh my God, it's so honest. I'm like, well, what else would I write?
Rousey able to show vulnerability on the page the way she never could as a fighter.
Why did you want to write this book?
I felt like this long form was the only way for me to adequately express everything that I hadn't been in, the last several years. And a lot of it, I wasn't able to be public about a lot of those things until now.
Like an injury history Rousey believes would have put a target on her back in the prime of her career.
It was just something I always was pushing through, so I would get a concussion and continue to train, and I'm hitting the ground over and over again all night, taking impacts. And then every time that you got one, it was easier to get another, and that's why I had to leave MMA. I couldn't take a jab without getting a concussion, which really sucked because I felt like I'd never been faster, never been stronger, never been, better.
Those symptoms, she says, most noticeable in her notorious loss to Holly Holm in 2015. Ending Rousey's 3-year UFC unbeaten streak at 12-0.
From the very first time I got tapped in the fight, I was out on my feet. And I was just trying to make it look like I wasn't out on my feet so that I wouldn't get swarmed on and finished off. What bugs me the most about that is so many people look at that fight and think that's who I am as a fighter and that's how I fight. I couldn't see, and I could barely think.
Do you worry now what damage you did to your brain with all those concussions?
Definitely. There was a point where I talked about it in the book where I would lose my keys or my phone and I would start crying. Let's put them in here, look.
She says that fear of losing her memories has taught her to live more in the moment. Rousey first started fighting when she was a kid, the daughter of Judo world champion Anne Maria DeMars.
Well, I was a prodigy from the very beginning. From when I first grabbed a judogi, it was just the heavens opened up and I found what I was meant to do. It was when Beethoven's finally touched a piano for the first time.
At 17, Rousey became the youngest judoka to qualify for the 2004 Olympics in Athens. In 2008, she won the bronze in Beijing. But that wasn't the dream.
When I was a little kid, all I wanted to do was be the first American to win, the Olympics in judo.
Right.
And falling just short of that was what propelled me to go and do what I did in MMA.
It's been 8 years since Rousey left the UFC and says she doesn't have any regrets. In the book, she addresses the potential power imbalance that can exist between coaches and their athletes. Detailing one training session that may have crossed a line, she writes, "We were supposed to be sparring, but his hits got harder and harder. They weren't the kind of slaps you throw when you're trying to train someone. They were the kind you throw when you want to hurt them."
It's not an individual, it's the whole institution of coaching. I mean, it's that system that you're taught to accept from a very, very young age. You're indoctrinated into it that this person can yell at you and can insult you and you can't say anything back. You have to take it.
It's not only her career that Rousey is so open about.
You write about miscarriage, which I think is really powerful for people to hear that it was like this for you, because so many women go through that.
I thought I was so immune to it because I was like, oh, I'm a finely tuned athletic machine. This is going to be easy for me. And it was like really humbling in a way. I feel like it's important for women to hear that, it's not just you.
And it's not
just you, and it's not your fault.
Yeah.
Exactly. And yeah, I don't regret waiting to have kids because now I can give like my kids 100% of my time and attention. Do the honors.
Rousey and husband Travis Brown, also a former fighter, parents to Kiave and Kaleo, her stepsons, and 2-year-old daughter Poe, who at times is her toughest opponent.
Usually I'm like trying to stop, like, don't pee on that. That's not like a feeling of mastery.
Mom.
Yeah?
Master of motherhood or not, Rousey credits her husband for helping her realize her worth outside the octagon.
I let myself be defined by my role, not just I'm a fighter, but I'm the champion, I'm the best that's ever done it. He showed me that I am so much more than that little box that I put myself in, and that guidance of, you know what, you are good for so much more than just beating the out of people, even though you're really, really, really good at it.
Yeah.
You're so good at it, but it's not all that you are.
Do you miss it?
I don't miss competing. I kind of miss MMA sparring, though. It's just like that feeling of being like amazing at something, that like feeling of mastery and like everything makes sense. But I do not miss the anxiety that comes with competition. Yeah.
And while Ronda Rousey may no longer define herself by her MMA and UFC records, there's no doubt she and her legacy helped redefine the sport.
Did you set out to do that? Did you want this to be, it's not just about me, but I want this to be about opportunity for other women, too?
I mean, honestly, I just wanted to like have a career, support myself doing something that I loved. But it wasn't like my goal to create a job for everybody else for women in the UFC. I just wanted to like make a living doing something I was good at, and it just happened to change the world.
It certainly did. And for fans of hers, yes, she talks about her time in WWE. She talks about so much in the book. But what I really took from this, for everyone, there are times in your life where you have to sort of redefine and look at yourself differently. And she talks about that struggle and how she did what she now has done.